Tonight on CFTK-TV News, a staple community event in Terrace is coming back. A Terrace-born artist is showcasing her work at the Terrace Art Gallery, and we look at what happened during the Terrace Rotary Auction.
Northwest BC's only television news team. We are CFTK-TV News.
Good evening, I'm Cale Maslin, and here's what's making the news in the Northwest and beyond for today. After a brief year hiatus, another staple in the Terrace community will be making its return in the next coming weeks. Now to CFTK's Damian Smith with more.
Now may be one of the oldest light-hearted rivalries in sports, but Guns N' Hoses will be making its return next Friday in a clash between the RCMP and the Terrace Fire Department.
We don't always get to see people on their finest day, so it's nice to get to see our families out and our friends and the community out supporting us and getting to know them a little bit better than just at work.
It's pretty dear to our heart. It's been going since 2009, and it's been such a community event. And we love seeing all the kids there, and we also get to help out local kids, which is what it's all about in the end.
The event was not able to be run last year in the Terrace community, but it was not due to a lack of players, and both sides will be adding some new players to their squads.
Our newest firefighter here is going to join us. I don't know how much hockey he's played, but he's going to come out. So we're always looking to see who we can add and get the guys together from Kitimat and Rupert and Terrace and everywhere. It's just fun to see everyone again.
We have a pretty big rotation of members in and out of the community here, so we usually have a new squad each year. So we try to keep it as local as we can. So there's about 4 or 5 of the members from town playing, and then we get some players from other communities to help out. We'll keep it as local as we can.
We'll see which side comes out with the win at the Terrace Sportsplex, with the firefighters having more of a historical lead in the win column since this event started back in 2009. Doors will be open at 5:30 p.m., followed by a 6:30 puck drop.
We kind of, for a while, we're trading back and forth, and it's always fun to get the win, but then you're still going to be, work together after and be buddies after the game, so you kind of have to, put that aside. But for game night, it's pretty fun to get in there and battle it out with them. At
the end of the game, we're hanging out together and we're friends again, and it's a fun event. We joke that it's pretty competitive, but at the end of the day, it's just fun to see the kids with the different hats on and cheering for either side. There's usually a few more firefighter fans than police fans.
Now tickets will be sold at the door for $5 per child, $10 for adult, and it will be free for children under 3 years of age. From Terrace, I'm Damian Smith.
This weekend, the 64th edition of the Terrace Rotary TV auction took place over the span of 13 hours on November 2nd and 3rd. The auction raised about $74,000 with 382 total items donated over the weekend. There were also 236 businesses who donated to the cause. For the amount of bidders, the club amassed over 3,300 total bids, along with $44,000 in auction sales. This money is going to be used to fund community projects and help local organizations meet their needs. A Terrace-born artist that has been chasing her dreams around the world has returned home to showcase the adventure at the Terrace Art Gallery. CFTK-TV's Jaylee Matthews caught up with wildlife guide Marlo Shaw to hear about her exhibition.
The show is 3 years in the making, a collection of photographs, paintings, and installation.
The photography is from my work as a wildlife guide, and the paintings I've been creating through the last number of years as, kind of like my respite from work also. So when I'm home, I get to just kind of get some separation from being out in the field and just hide away in my studio and paint away and reflect on some of the things that I've seen.
Wildlife guide Marlo Shaw's work has taken her around the world, and this show features works from the Great Bear Rainforest, Churchill, Manitoba, Greenland, and Antarctica.
I feel really grateful for the opportunity to see all of those different spots and get some inspiration and consistency from those locations as well. Being a naturalist and an observer of the natural environment in those places, you start to see patterns in different parts of the world, and you just get this much larger holistic view of nature and nature's processes, and that's a big part of this show. That's why I have all of the different locations that I've worked in one room, because to me it really feels all one, really connected. And they're also places that I really love, and this whole show is kind of a reflection of the people and the places that I care a lot about. So
Shaw has brought that love for connection with nature into her show as an interactive piece.
in creating this show, I've also added an element that I'm hoping can be reflective for people who are coming to visit. And so, you know, how can we be more connected to nature? We're going to have an opportunity for people to come in and just write suggestions, because people have different ways that they go about this, right? Whether it's, you know, literally going outside and touching the dirt with your toes, or, you know, bringing your kids out to rake the leaves one day, or, you know, painting the environment around you so that you can really observe the way that nature has kind of engineered the world around us, or taking photos and watching wildlife, waiting for wildlife, all of those things. So I'm just curious what other people do, because it's really what my whole world revolves around, is trying to help connect people to place.
Echo by Marlo Shaw runs at the Terrace Art Gallery for the entire month of November.
This is totally a dream come true. It's beautiful. It's better than I ever could have imagined.
For CFTK-TV News, I'm Jaylene Matthews.
Operations at provincial ports have ground to a halt. The BC Maritime Employers Association locked out 700 foremen at 4:30 yesterday afternoon, shutting down ports up and down the coast. As CTV's Ben Milger reports, manufacturers and retailers across the country could be hit hard by the labor dispute.
An estimated $800 million in daily trade flows through BC ports. It's just come to a grinding halt. 700 foremen without a contract for close to 2 years are now on the picket lines, locked out by their employer. Wages and automation are the sticking points in the dispute.
The employer said the offer we put on the table Wednesday is still good to go. You agree to that, and we don't need any lockout. Of course, the union said if we wanted that offer, we would have agreed to it then.
The lockout came in response to the workers issuing a strike notice. The union says it was only going to refuse overtime, but the employer wasn't prepared to risk a full-scale walk-off before it got a chance to safely wind down operations. The longer containers like these sit on the dock, the more likely people are to feel the impact through potential shortages on store shelves.
We have orders on the containers that have sold orders. We have Black Friday merchandise coming in. We've got Boxing Day merchandise coming in. It'll affect us quite a bit.
Canadian manufacturers who ship through BC ports, unable to move their products to overseas buyers, could also feel the squeeze.
BC ports are so important for the entire economy that we are asking the federal government to step in rapidly to end the current work stoppage.
The federal government says mediators are available to help the two sides reach an agreement, but on day one of this potentially costly impasse, there's no indication yet the feds are willing to force an end to this labor dispute. Ben Milger, CTV News, Vancouver.
Also included in the province-wide port strike is the Prince Rupert port, who saw some gradual disruptions by 8 a.m. yesterday morning before they too were locked out of their workspace at 4:30 p.m. Out of the 700 total foremen that were locked out, 75 of them reside at the Prince Rupert port, and they have since set up their own picket line at Scott Road. The main parties affected by the closure at the Port of Prince Rupert are the Fairview Container Terminal and Westview Wood Pellet Terminal, who have quite the economic significance due to the fact they both act as North American gateways to trading with foreign markets in Europe and Asia. However, it was not disclosed just how the other 5 Prince Rupert terminals were affected by the strike. Coming up next, New Westminster Council recently had quite the tense meeting. Welcome back. The rain was really hitting Vancouver Island recently, with it already having the potential to cause problems, but as CTV's Adam McMillan reports, the precipitation won't stop for a while yet.
If you're anything like this guy or these guys, you don't mind a little moisture.
It's not bad. I love it.
Vancouver Island and parts of BC's coast are getting plenty of precipitation.
This is one of those systems that we refer to as an atmospheric river. So that means it's got a lot of moisture that's coming towards the coast.
Environment Canada says west and inland Vancouver Island could see up to 150 millimeters of rain over 24 hours.
And we'll be watching the situation really closely as it evolves.
The storm is bringing some warm air with it, which means some of the powder on Mount Washington could melt.
And that will add to those rainfall totals.
That means landslides and minor flooding are possible,
like water pooling on roads.
But it won't come close to the floods we saw 2 years ago.
River systems are low. They're not necessarily at a high level, and the ground's less saturated than it was in November 2021.
The BC River Forecast Centre says water levels could rise rapidly, though, so a high stream flow advisory is in effect for the island.
We still do have an eye on some of the challenging rivers that are on the east side of Vancouver Island, the Englishman River, which can affect Parksville, and also just others like the Cowichan, the Chemainus, the Nanaimo rivers.
While major flooding isn't expected, it's still wise to keep storm drains clear and move possessions away from low-lying areas during the storm.
They're an important type of storm for us. They're one of the main ways we recharge our water after a relatively dry summers and early falls. And this year especially, we've been still needing some of that precipitation,
which will continue to fall until tomorrow morning. Anna McMillan, CTV News.
There was a contentious meeting at New Westminster City Hall as council voted whether or not to accept the recommendations from the city's ethics commissioner. It all stems from the mayor's luxury travel to a climate change conference last year. CTV's Shannon Patterson has the story.
When New Westminster Mayor Patrick Johnstone was invited to a United Nations climate change conference in Dubai last December, he traveled in style. Business class seats on Emirates Air and a 5-night stay at the Waldorf Astoria Hotel. 2 councillors complained to the city's ethics commissioner, alleging the mayor accepted an extravagant gift from a third-party organization.
The ethics commissioner was very clear in her report that the acceptance of business class travel on a very expensive airline and staying at the hotel Waldorf Astoria, getting all your meals paid for, that went beyond what would be expected of elected official, a politician here at the City of New Westminster.
Well, Ethics Commissioner Jennifer Devins found Johnstone did breach the city's code of conduct by receiving a personal benefit. She determined he acted in good faith, and members of his party agree.
I don't think the mayor sought out additional luxuries. I think that's what the group who was sponsoring his participation in the conference offered to him.
So as it stands right now, the commissioner simply asked that the mayor take a bit of additional training.
The 2 councillors who lodged the initial complaint believe that's not good enough. In a hearing Monday morning, they proposed the mayor make a donation to a local charity as a way of repaying the personal benefit he received.
All in favor?
But they were outvoted by councillors who belong to the mayor's party, and Johnstone will only be asked to take training on ethics rules.
As the ethics commissioner said, this was done in good faith. This was an accident. There's no money being exchanged. There's no cost to the city.
Mayor Johnstone chose not to appear in person at the hearing. In a statement, he said he takes responsibility for his actions, but claims he had no idea he was breaching the ethics code by accepting the luxury travel. And he and his party defend his attendance at the conference.
He was attending to champion the climate work that New Westminster is doing, and I think that it was a huge honor for him to be invited.
While it came at no cost to taxpayers, opposition councillors believe the mayor's luxury trip to Dubai may have shaken some residents' trust in local government. Shannon Patterson, CTV News, New Westminster.
Turning to tonight's weather, the North Coast will be home to rain plus a low of 7 degrees. The Terrace Kitimat area is set to deal with rain of their own and a low down at 4 degrees. And the Bulkley Valley and Lakes District will instead get snow and their low will sit down at 0 degrees. On the North Coast, the week for them will contain nothing but rain and clouds, while the high bounces between 10 and 7 degrees. In the Terrace Kitimat area, the upcoming week will also essentially see nothing but rain as well, while the high jumps from 11 to 3 degrees. And in the Bulkley Valley and Lakes District, the sun might appear for a second at the start of the week, but then all the rain will set in as well, before some snow also appears, plus the high will shift from 11 to 1 degree. Checking out the highways now, visit Drive BC for the latest and up-to-date conditions, and as always, drive safe out there. On Highway 16, there is slippery sections, a vehicle incident, maintenance work, utility work, construction work, snowing, compact snow, and the Usk Ferry could be delayed due to low water levels. On Highway 35, they have slippery section, and Highway 118 has some slippery sections too. Highway 37 has some roadside brushing and slippery sections. Highway 37A has bridge maintenance. There's some construction work and bridge maintenance on the Nishka Highway, and the Telegraph Creek Road has slippery sections as well. And this is what the roads were looking like this afternoon around the region from the view of the province's highway cams. Still to come, we look back at the life of a former senator and human rights champion. Welcome back. Murray Sinclair has died at the age of 73. He was a judge, former senator, and champion of human rights. He listened to survivors of the residential school system and advocated for the Indigenous community. On the national stage, Sinclair was chair of Canada's Truth and Reconciliation Commission. CTV's Mike Lecouture now on Sinclair's distinguished career.
Throughout his life, Murray Sinclair tried to shine a light on the dark corners of Canada's history, searching for the truth and paving the way for reconciliation.
It was education that got us into this, and it will be how we educate our children going forward that will get us out of this.
As the head of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, he led Canada through a reckoning with its past abuses of Indigenous peoples in residential schools. In a statement, his family said Sinclair committed his life in service to the people, creating change, revealing truth, and leading with fairness throughout his career.
The deep convictions and immovable strength he brought to bear on such extraordinary challenges were an inspiration to all of us.
Sinclair spent 6 years documenting the stories of thousands of residential school survivors. It resulted in 94 calls to action and an awakening across the country.
He is our Martin Luther King for this country. He saw something that none of us could even envision and brought us all along in that journey of reconciliation.
Born in Selkirk, Manitoba, Sinclair was the first Indigenous judge in that province and just the second in Canada. Sinclair's traditional name means the one who speaks of pictures in the sky.
The story behind it, of course, is about a young man who goes out to seek answers in order to help his people who are living in troubled times.
After delivering the TRC report, he was appointed as a senator, where he continued his work to make the country a better place for all.
He would listen to these places as stories of learning, of possibility, so that we could create a better future for everyone's kids.
Murray Sinclair was 73. Mike Lecouture, CTV News, Ottawa.
Security is ramped up for the U.S. election, and for good reason. The FBI has received more than 2,000 threats against election workers since the 2020 edition of the election, and those threats are being taken very seriously. Some of the ways that the workers will be protected include drones and bulletproof glass. ABC's Pier Tavis reports.
Just hours from Election Day, local officials in battleground states tonight taking extraordinary steps to protect the votes and the workers counting them. In Maricopa County, Arizona, where some people showed up with guns during the 2020 vote count, armed guards, drones, surveillance cameras, police on horses, and a SWAT team standing by. In Detroit, the city's stepping up security to avoid scenes like this in 2020, when pro-Trump supporters tried to disrupt the ballot counting. This time, officers will be in and around the building, even on the roof.
We now have bulletproof glass on the front of our building. We have more cameras. We have a panic button.
Governors in Washington, Nevada, and Oregon will have the National Guard ready for any large-scale civil disturbances. And in Philadelphia, the district attorney with this blunt warning.
Anybody who thinks it's time to insult, to deride, to mistreat, to threaten people, F around and find out. We do have the cuffs, we do have the jail cells.
And now we turn our attention to how the stock markets are looking as of today compared to yesterday. The Canadian dollar is up 21/10 of a cent, the price of gold is up $3.50, oil is up 52 cents, natural gas is down 11 cents, aluminum is down $34, in Toronto the TSX is up 131.84 points, the Venture Index is up 0.45, in New York the Dow Jones is up 427.28, and Nasdaq is up 259.19. Still ahead is a look at Canada being the next place Taylor Swift's Eras Tour will visit. Welcome back. Taylor Swift is preparing to bring her highly popular Eras Tour to Canada. She will be performing 3 shows in Vancouver in December, but her first Canadian stop is in Toronto with the first of 6 shows set to kick off in just over a week. As CTV's Sean Leathong reports, the city is rolling out the red carpet, even renaming a street in her honor.
It's a sign of things to come.
Welcome to the Eras Tour!
In just 10 days, Taylor Swift will play her first of 6 sold-out shows from her Eras Tour here in Toronto. And from now until the end of November, street signs marking Taylor Swift Way will line the route from Rogers Centre to City Hall.
It's nice to welcome Taylor Swift in our own Canadian way.
This group of Swifties took time to grab a photo with the sign this afternoon as anticipation is building.
I've always been a Taylor Swift fan ever since I was little, since Fearless, I'd say. It's really exciting that she's coming to Toronto.
I would say it's extreme levels of excitement right now. I mean, she's playing 6 nights.
No artist has ever played the Rogers Centre 6 times in one tour, but creating Taylor Swift Way isn't just about excitement.
We know that Taylor has a significant cultural and economic impact on every city she tours in, and that often includes donating to food banks in the cities where she visits.
There will be 22 signs hanging along the route until the end of the month, and each one will be auctioned off with the proceeds going to the Daily Bread Food Bank.
1 in 10 Torontonians is having to make use of the Daily Bread Food Bank. They're having to make use of food charity. And a city as wonderful as ours is, that shouldn't be the case.
That is why these Taylor Swift signs will be auctioned off.
Rogers has paid for the signs and has agreed to match donations up to $113,000.
Honestly, it's fun. It's good for the city, and a lot of people are having fun, so.
With the first auction kicking off today and going until November 10th, with more signs being auctioned off throughout the month. And while the concerts are sold out, some are still hoping.
You think you're going to get tickets?
I think so, yeah.
The 6 shows are on November 14th, 15th, 16th, 21st, 22nd, and 23rd. Sean Leathong, CTV News.
Police in Nanaimo say a man was taken to the hospital with serious injuries following a shooting in a home on Saturday. Police say they responded to reports of shots fired at around 6 p.m. They say the suspect had already left and extensive search was not successful to find them. Police say that the investigators believe the shooting was targeted and there is no further risk to the public. That is all of our news for now. From all of us here at CFTK-TV News, I'm Cale Maslin, and thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.